Hi, it's Michelle Austin from the Lead with Impact podcast. We all know that feeling of being alone and isolated in business. It's tough out there, and it's easy to feel like you're the only one struggling while navigating the business world. But the good news is you're not alone. The Lead with Impact podcast is all about learning from others who have been there and done that. We interview inspiring guests who share their stories, trials, and triumphs so that you can learn from their mistakes and map out your path to success. Each week, we'll bring you inspiring stories, valuable insights, and actionable tips from other business people who are leading with impact. So, if you're ready to learn from others and take your business to the next level, subscribe to the Lead with Impact podcast today. Welcome back, Impact Makers. This is your host, Michelle Austin, for another insightful episode of the Lead with Impact podcast. On the show today, I'm excited to interview Robin Botha. Robin is a chartered accountant who works with SMEs to help them reach their business goals. He brings over 9 years of accounting and finance experience, along with a commitment to understanding his clients' needs. Robin specializes in helping business owners make sound decisions for the future, while also providing sound advice on business strategy. With a professional and friendly approach, he strives to provide everyone with insights into how to structure their finances in order to maximize profits and sustainability. Robin's ultimate objective is to assist entrepreneurs on the journey of achieving their ambitions. Hi, Robin. It's so great to welcome you today. We're very excited to have a great chat.
Oh, looking forward to chatting and seeing what interesting things you're going to ask me today.
Very exciting. Okay, so let's jump right into it. What is something that motivates you to get up in the morning? So what gives you that drive or that energy to get up?
You know, as an accountant, I think I just enjoy what I do, and I enjoy giving people that clarity and hopefully a little bit of education, and but mostly just a little bit of comfort that their financial situation is where they think it is, and that we're just assisting entrepreneurs, fellow business owners in their businesses to understand where they are with their businesses, and secondly to remain compliant, and because being compliant with all the statutory bodies out there is critical to longevity of our respective businesses.
100% agree with you on that. It's critical. It's sometimes I think detrimental, because I think sometimes we've got so much red tape that sometimes hinders us. But I think without the compliance, if you're not compliant, it places massive risk on people's businesses. So I always make sure whenever I'm involved, so for instance in our group of companies, like I said, it might be detrimental, but that is one of the first places that I make sure that is in line, because if you're not compliant, it can really be a hindrance to serving your customers, for example. So we had an issue with a tax clearance certificate a year or two ago. It wasn't our doing, and we were really struggling to get it right. But one of our customers, who is related to the government, would not do business with us until it was rectified. So it can really hamper your business.
Yeah, exactly. So and there's such a lot of good businesses out there where the owners are so passionate about doing what they want to do and doing it well, that they just quite often forget about the ticking some boxes in the background, and just making sure that the little admin things are taken care of, and that through me providing that service, I empower those business owners to basically take care of what they're good at, and we take care of the rest.
Yep, that's so important to have somebody behind the scenes who you can rely on, and you know that it's just going to get done.
Exactly, and it's quite different, having had a long career in corporate as well, where where your business owner is quite often a lonely creature, and doesn't have a team of advisors behind them, or committees, or whatever you might call it, to advise them behind the scenes, and just to take care of the basics, is always just that critical to like I said, ensure the longevity of the business, and not letting those business owners hit those brick walls down the line.
Completely. That just makes me think of an example. So, for instance, the Minister of Finance has just mentioned funding that could become available for renewable energy sources, so solar panels, etc. And the piece of advice that I always give to business owners is, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like right now. There's some sort of fund that's being developed, but my suggestion or my recommendation or advice that I can give to business owners at this point is, make sure that you have all of those admin boxes ticked in advance, because once that funding becomes available, that's going to be what holds you back. So for instance, if I think back to the COVID funding that came about, my time was spent not on the actual applications themselves, but actually making sure that I had all the documents saved in the right formats, in the right places in advance. They are going to ask for your tax compliance certificate. They are going to ask for your subsidy documents. They are going to ask for your latest bank account confirmation. They are going to probably ask for your MOI and your memorandum of incorporation. They probably are going to ask for shareholders agreements. Make sure you have all of your ducks in a row, so that when that funding becomes available, that's not what holds you back.
Yeah, 100%. And in the technological environment that we live in, all the different departments are becoming so much closer together. And I even have an example where recently I tried to do a immigration clearance for a client, and the clearance was declined because this client had a old closed corporation that was not up to date with CIPC.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just declined out of hand because of that. So yes, with technology, all the departments are talking to each other. So yes, 100%. Get your ducks in a row. Make sure you are compliant, because down the line you are going to want something, need something from government, or someone that works with government or close to government. And if that is not up to date and clear and all boxes tick, as we accountants like to call that, you are going to have problems to get that funding, as you were talking about.
Yeah, I think it's not even just that anymore. I think a lot of businesses are getting wise. So we're not a massive corporate, but we look at those things when we're looking at taking on a customer or a supplier. If you're not able to provide that to us, are you a responsible corporate citizen? Maybe, maybe not. So it's a difficult question to answer. You might just be having a bit of trouble with SARS, for instance, like we had. It's got nothing to do with, it's not your fault. But just make sure that you're up to date on those. Make sure that you keep on top of them, so that when the time comes that you need it, you don't have to scramble around, and that's the hindrance to getting that funding or getting that contract.
Yeah, no, correct. Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, so what is one thing that you think you would change about yourself in the next year?
In the next year, I've actually taken a bit of a quieter approach to not say we're going to go 120% full speed ahead. I said maybe 2023 is going to be a year of looking after mental health a little bit. I think the whole country, the whole world has gone through 3 years of don't know what's happening, and let's just do whatever we can to survive, and not knowing what tomorrow is going to hold. And I think everybody's now settled into the world as it has come out of the 3 years of COVID pandemic and other crazy things that's been happening in the world. and to say, have a look at your own business. Um, Look at what works, look at what doesn't work, uh, grow what is working, fix what's not working, or eliminate what's not working,
Mm.
and set yourself up for success for 2024 maybe by creating those efficiencies within your business, and growing your capacity for getting more clients and getting on board those clients that you want.
Yeah, I think it was a word of mine for last year, which was agility. And there's so much behind that, but it really is about honing down those processes, using technology to your advantage, because I think things are just moving so fast that if you don't keep up, you're going to really get left behind. So making sure you're on top of trends and new technologies in your industry so that you can keep up to date. For instance, I've actually got an example. I am busy dealing with an accountant and I've needed to get information from them. And it has been incredibly difficult for me because I feel like they're very outdated. So what they do is that for instance, they run on Pastel. Their stuff is archived from a couple of years ago. So what they do is they can't access it in Excel anymore. They print the thing to PDF, then physically print it, and physically courier it to me.
Oh my word.
Um, and I just feel like, it's a great example because if you don't get on the bus very, very soon, they're going to get left behind in a real way, because it has been incredibly challenging for me to deal with them because I'm used to doing everything electronically. I mean, I literally get the printed PDFs via courier, and the first thing I do is scan them.
Correct.
You know?
Correct.
So I don't understand why you couldn't have just emailed it to me in the first place. It's cheaper, it's faster, more efficient, but so be it. So yeah, just a bit of an example as to how, if you don't stay on trend, you can very quickly get left behind.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, ever since I uh, started my association with CTF Services, which is the runs the back office accounting firm, we've had a firm approach to say that whatever clients we take on, there's only one requirement, and that is that they have a cloud accounting package,
Mm-hmm.
something that can be accessed by anyone, anywhere, when needed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because we don't want to deal with paper anymore. Paper is something of the past, and
Mm-hmm.
yes, that was one of the blessings, blessings in disguise, where our COVID lockdown had forced people to become paperless, and
Yep.
be forced to design processes and systems that enable them to get going on their businesses without being physically present and being
Mm.
physically able to print things out and move them from point A to point B,
Yep.
and using the technology, email, and even doing business on WhatsApp. I'm not a youngster anymore, but doing business on WhatsApp is even a possibility, and where everybody would have thought, no, that's only it's having a chit chat with
Mm.
your mom on a Sunday morning. But no, I do a lot of efficient business on WhatsApp, to
Yep.
just getting a quick check-in with a client. If they need something quick, they can get hold of me. It's not as intrusive as a phone call.
Yep.
We quite often, especially with the younger generations, a phone call is sometimes seen as offensive.
Yeah, I must agree. WhatsApp is definitely actually one of my favorite business tools, especially when I'm running around between meetings. I'm not always on my email, I'm not always on my phone, but I know when I'm done, I can look down and just check if there's anything urgent from the office that's come through. So I think you're right. I think there's a lot of simple tools and day-to-day tools that we can use to help our businesses without going, completely the opposite direction where you've gone from paper only to completely paperless. Sure, it's something to just keep in the back of your mind.
Yeah, yeah, and with technology and getting rid of paper, hand in hand with that is, as soon as everything is electronic, you start looking at automation, and
Yeah.
and I think automation is the name of the game of of driving your efficiencies and any
Mhm.
business's efficiencies. To say, if I need to click a button more than 3 times a day, I'm sure there is an app out there
Mhm.
that can click it for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had uh, way back when I was fresh out of corporate and counting pennies very, very hard. Um, Having a chat with my wife to say, should I really invest in this email automation app, because it's costing quite a few dollars,
Mm.
American dollars a month. And she said, Robin, what is an hour of your time worth?
Mhm.
And what amount of time are you going to save by implementing this application?
Yeah.
And and from her engineering background, coming into my accounting space, I just said, I don't know why I haven't done this 3 months ago already.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's and just you know identifying those efficiencies that you can exploit very, very easily. Those what do they call it, busy work items, those things that some people say, I'm so busy at work the whole day, but it's not adding value to your life. It's something, if it doesn't add value, it means you're not applying your mind to do it, which means it can most probably be automated.
I agree with you completely. I think that there really is that calculation you need to do in the back of your mind. It's something that I was taught a few years ago, and we don't realize what impact it has, where you go, okay, I either need to eliminate these tasks that are not doing me any justice, or I need to delegate them, or I need to automate them. And you really do need to work out what your hourly rate is, and whether how much time the app or the automation would save. And I find, just something for listeners to think about is those repetitive tasks that you do a couple of times a day, or you really should examine your processes, because I mean these days, I mean a silly example is with this podcast. So once we're done recording this podcast, I've got a Zapier thing in the background that literally waits until it's finished downloading, and then it uploads it for my assistant to start editing. um, and it saves me probably only 5 or 10 minutes. But you know, if you actually consider that maybe I don't have the time to get to it today, and maybe I'll only get to it next week, it's massively important for making sure that my podcasts go out regularly. So it's small things, to make sure you're consistent, to make sure that you are. I mean, something silly as well. I could be spending those 5 minutes with my family instead of downloading it and then uploading it somewhere else. So yeah, I think it's very important to look at all of your processes, and just Google and be open to different options.
What people are afraid of, what I was afraid of, is
Mm,
to try new things, because you think, okay, now I'm going to change the process and I'm going to be married to it. But
mm,
that's not true. None of these apps are going to tell you you need to pay for it up front for the rest of your life. They
mm.
most probably going to say, try me free for a month. If it doesn't
Yep,
work, can it?
yep,
And and if it doesn't work, that's that's fine. Then you don't use it. If it works for 6 months and your business grows out of that requirement, you can just cancel it. So it's also a very important part where you, with you mentioned the word agility. If you have gone on a process to automate, and one step of it works a little bit, or then it doesn't work, you can always change it.
mm,
And making a mistake in those changes aren't fatal. You know,
Mm.
as a business owner, you can't fire yourself, and that's a sad fact. You have to
Yeah.
go back tomorrow and fix your mistakes.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think that has also been a key lesson for me over the last few years is the only thing that is kind of a constant at the moment is change. And the more you're scared of it, the more it's actually going to hold you back. So if you just embrace it and go with the flow, just try it. Like you say, sign up for that 14-day trial or that 30-day trial. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Find a different option. And if that is to go back to the old way you did it, do that. But yeah, embrace as many changes as you can. It's the fastest way, in my opinion, to grow.
Correct, correct, and ideally be the first one to change,
Mm.
because
Don't wait
because
until
when
other people do it.
because when your competitors, are trying all of these things out, and you are already settled in, they are going to be doing your marketing on your behalf,
Mm.
because they're going to be looking for clients, based on this new latest and greatest in their eyes. And if you're already settled, you've already gone through the growing pains, of this change, you are going to pick up those clients very easy.
Yeah, yeah. Like you say, it's if you don't do it at the moment, you are really your competitors are going to take your business in the blink of an eye.
Yep.
What do you think are the most important lessons that you hope to pass on to your kids?
I've had a lot of lessons, some easy, some harder, during my long career. Most of it spent in corporate. uh, I thought I was going to retire out of corporate, and that came to an abrupt end when the corporate world and my world did not align anymore. And and I exited corporate and thought I was going to reintegrate into another part of corporate very easily, and which was not the case. And so that basically got me into doing my own thing, and looking after SMEs, and being uh, much better off for it. I might not be better off it, financially, but I would say mentally and emotionally, I'm much better off for it. So if there is a good idea out there, I would tell my kids, have the courage to embrace it.
Mm.
Have the courage to try it. Because like we just said, if you make a mistake in life, it's not the end of the road. You can pick
Mm.
up the pieces, and you can start again. You can try again,
Mm.
and having that courage. And from my lessons and from how I was brought up, I realized with a sudden, rude awakening, that the dog eat dog corporate world. I'm not saying all of corporate is a dog eat dog world, but
Mm.
some industries are quite like that. But to lead with humility. you
Mm.
know like they say, nice guys finish as well. They might not finish first, but they finish as well, and they
Yeah,
finish with a smile.
I think that's a very, very important lesson for our kids to learn. Um, yeah, I hope to pass that on to my kids as well, is that nothing is ever set in stone. Move as you want to or as you need to.
Yeah, and
Life
and
is,
at, and at your speed as well.
mm, yeah, life is fluid. It doesn't have to be a solid.
Definitely, definitely. It is where you place yourself today, and where you saw where you were going to be, 10 years ago, and it's completely different pictures. And you have to embrace it every day, and
Mm.
just wake up, get out there, uh, because as we get older, and our parents get older, if you're lucky enough to still have them around, um, you understand that life is short. Don't go to work just for the sake of going to work. Make sure it counts.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. What do you think has been the most influential resource over your career or for your career? What do you think has influenced you the most over your career, or who?
Oh, well, throughout my career, well, I knew I was going to be an accountant when I was 5 already, but but then way back then people were still using the abacus, and so the most useful resource has definitely been technology, where that has just made the accounting industry um, really much easier. And you were referring to those paper reports that you had to convert. For many years while I was doing accounting, we did not have convert to Excel and readable PDFs, where you physically had to you print a report and then you had to go and find the data in that 500-page report, the data that you were looking for. So definitely technology and connectivity and integration of systems has just been the absolute highlight of my career, and just defining how you do things and how you could change things and make it faster and simpler and more accurate in the process, where as accountants we don't really have to be smart anymore to get the right answer.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, especially for decision making, it's so important to have information that's available almost instantaneously. And gone are the days where it took half a month to get your results out. These days, if you keep up to date and if you keep on top of things, I mean, in our business, and we're not a small business, we're a medium sized business, literally by lunchtime on day one, we're done. Um, so that's huge for decision making.
Yeah, correct. uh, I'm I'm now, in the process of the time in the year, where everybody's in
Mm.
there, in just starting off for the new financial year. So we heading into the period to check if everybody's done their budgets. You should have done your
Hmm.
budgets, and if you haven't, so that's where I tell people, your budget shouldn't be a pain. It shouldn't be a chore. It shouldn't be something that you see as a hampering part of your business. Have I done the budget for my business? Yes, I have. I
Mm.
I did only do it in March. I did it on the 1st of March, but it took 30 minutes of my day.
Mm.
It didn't take 3 weeks as it does
Hmm.
sometime in corporate with 20 permutations that need to go back and forth. If you have the right information available, and and you can analyze that easy enough, and to say, okay, what are your plans for this year? What are
Mm.
you going to introduce into the business? What are you going to extract out of the business? You know, use the technology, use the data, analyze it smartly, and your budget will present itself to you in the process.
Mm. I think you touch on something for me there. So, for so many years in corporate, as accountants, I feel like we often like to overcomplicate things. And sometimes, in fact, almost always, I find that the best solution is probably the most simple. Don't make it a chore, don't make it overcomplicated. Keep as much in your business as simple as you possibly can. Yeah,
Yes,
because adding layers of complication just tends to add more costs.
100%. Simplicity is most often the right answer in business structures, in what you do, in how you do it.
Mm.
And when you're reviewing technology and how you can automate your processes, look at if there's not 20 extra steps that are in there because the
Yeah.
technology didn't exist before, and has made themselves redundant in the process. So you don't need to automate redundant steps in a process. You can just eliminate them.
Yeah. How do you continue to learn to stay on top of things in your space?
There's a wealth of information out there, and we live in the age you just open up your computer, and there's such a lot of news and articles and things out there. I have learned to curate them myself a little bit, because there's a lot of nonsense out there as well, because with the absolute amount of volume of news and articles and information that's out there. I think just to stick to a selective amount of platforms of reading, with the amount of time that we have available, getting your short and hard hitting articles out there, and consuming those. Having conversations with your peers, I find that to be very, very fruitful and actually and stimulating, and it helps your own mind, work. Keep active in your networks, having conversations, asking questions, sharing ideas, because two minds are better than one. It's a
Yep.
And if you've got 5 people in the room, you're going to have 5 minds there, and just share ideas and your thoughts about what the market is saying, what the world is saying, because we live in a world where quite a lot of people say the world's gone mad, and quite often what the world is saying might not be right. It might not be right for you. It might not be right for our country. It might not be right for just your direct environment.
Yeah.
And be critical. As accountants, we get educated with a behavior of professional skepticism, and
Yes.
and to say, okay, I'm listening to you, but I'm going to ask questions after. And if you can't defend your statements, then I'm going to walk away and not make it my own.
Yeah.
So yes, always be a little bit critical these days, but listen to what is out there, but really, really be critical, I say, because otherwise you are going to be dragged along in a wave of misinformation and sheepish followers that just try and make more noise to what their neighbor is saying, and not really have any value added to your life.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there is so much noise out there. We just need to focus in on what, like you said, what is important to us, what makes sense. Be critical about it, think it through, and make your own assumptions or deductions rather. So yeah, it's critical because there is just so much information, and I think anybody will talk if they can get heard, and they might not necessarily be saying the right thing.
Yes, correct. And that's probably one of the fall downs of technology today is that anybody can be heard throughout the whole world if anybody else is willing to listen. And sadly, quite a lot of those people, I believe, should not be heard.
Yep. Yeah. It's scary, actually, when you start thinking about it.
But then, you just remove yourself out of those environments, and,
Yes.
and and make sure that you place yourself in those environments where the people who talk, possibly been vetted or proven themselves in the past, and that they actually have checked, the thoughts and ideas that they are sharing with you, and maybe just not read it themselves, and just you writing it in a bolder font or shouting it a little bit louder than their neighbor.
Yeah, that's the truth. Robin, who do you talk to when you get stuck or when you feel stuck?
Firstly, my son. because he's got the smartest ideas, and I think at the age of 10, he hasn't been hamstrung by experience and making mistakes, because with every mistake you make, you might become a little bit more critical on your thinking, or a little bit more hesitant to trying new things.
Mm.
And I think the the wisdom in youth is actually understated to quite a great extent.
Yeah.
But never do that in isolation. Always curate it, because otherwise we might have built a couple of spaceships in our backyard already to solve some problems. And but definitely, reaching out to your business network. Everyone is as a business network that they can reach out to bounce off issues, to bounce off problems. uh, and of course my wife. I mentioned her
Mm.
earlier, and I regard her as a very smart person that will look at things objectively, and being the German that she is, she calls a spade a spade.
Yeah. Yeah, I think often, for instance, I think that my husband would have made a great accountant. He's just got the right thought process. But him not actually being an accountant often makes if I've run into a problem and I've got to solve it, he thinks about it in a different way to what I would, which often just helps kind of problem solve a bit. So yeah, I think
Yeah,
I think a spouse or a partner can be a huge tool that we don't think about very often, and kids too. I mean, the amount of stuff that my kids have taught me about technology is actually scary too.
correct. Yeah. Now the youth of today, they are really growing up a hell of a lot quicker than we did.
Mhm.
If I,
Mhm.
even just on basic education, the stuff that they do, in the lower grades, I'm afraid to think of what they might start doing when they get to high school, because
Yep.
I might just be left behind at that stage. But yes, the early introduction into technology and critical thinking,
Mm.
really really goes a long way to to form them. And if we can use that to bounce things off of, even if it's just to get a couple of way out there brainstorming ideas, why not?
It's great advice. So, what do you think was your career's lowest point, and how did you manage to turn it around?
I think it was probably my exit out of corporate, which came a lot quicker than I anticipated. I i i thought I was one of the corporate heroes, and where I've actually coined the phrase the evaporating network, where your network is actually attached to your position and not to the
Mm.
person. And as soon as I exited, my network basically evaporated, and it was a very very big lesson in humility,
Mm.
in seeing who your real friends are, who your
Yep.
real network is. And 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 from there, I basically had to start from scratch, and and pick myself up, dust myself off, after I felt sorry for myself for a while, and decided what I was going to do. And you know well, very uncomfortably trying to force myself back into corporate for a couple of years. It just made me realize that I had to do something very uncomfortable for me, being, get out there, put yourself out there, build a new network,
Mm.
and have those business conversations with people. And in in the community where I grew up, as a Afrikaans boy in Pretoria, people don't talk business to each other.
Yeah.
And I find that is actually quite sad, because there are such a lot of smart people out there, where on your Saturday braai you can actually just bounce some ideas off people. And it's it might have been because I grew up in a very corporate environment where everybody had their corporate job, and you just don't want to discuss it over the weekend.
Yeah.
But as business owners and entrepreneurs and small people who run small businesses, it's very important to just bounce ideas all the time. And because there are collaboration opportunities, there are there's such a wealth of knowledge out there that if you can just tap into that and just say, I had this idea, but I was really, really stuck, to just completely pop that open and have that idea become reality, just because you had a simple conversation, over a beer around the braai.
Yeah, I find that those are often the best conversations, not the forced ones, the conversations that just spark from somewhere and everybody has a little bit of an opinion or a thought on it. Yeah, I love that. Love that. What do you think is the most important to your company? Do you think it is mission, vision, or your values?
I'd say values. I'd definitely say values, because basically, as a small business, you are the business. And as in lots of ways it's wrong, but while you are the business, your values represent you, and you represent the business. And your values, especially when it becomes in a situation where you are a trusted advisor to other businesses. During COVID, it was quite difficult to do business development, because I always tell my clients, listen here, I want to sit down with you, have a cup of coffee, where you are going to look me in the eyes, and said, Robin, I am comfortable that you know some of my dirty secrets. Yeah. Because if you are not going to be that, with me being your accountant, our relationship will not work. Because there has to be a fundamental level of trust. And it's difficult to get that during the business development side of a relationship. Yeah. But even if you just say that, in a bit of a joking manner, it does come with that level of seriousness to say, we are going to have some heart-to-heart conversations, and some of them are not going to be comfortable. Yep. But you are going to have to trust me that I am always going to look after your best interests.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, if I think about our business, I think, for instance, it's how we hire and fire. We hire people on our values. So we've determined what we stand for. And if you don't fit into those, then we don't really want to do business with you, because that's what we stand for. That's what we believe is right. And I think that's essentially what you're saying, is that especially in a small business where you are the lead, or the sole leader, if I can put it that way, is that your values become even more important. And it becomes even more important that others buy into that, or agree to live by those, or even better, that those are the values that they have themselves. I found that it causes so much tension, and things don't normally get done the way you want them to if you don't have those. And so yeah, I agree. I would probably also choose values.
Yeah, no, a mission and a vision can be built in a day. Values can't. They are a little bit more difficult to instill, especially in a larger corporate, with diverse leadership. But if it's if it's ingrained from the beginning, when a business is a small business, every large business was a small business once. So, if it's ingrained from the beginning, and I won't say formalized, but constantly encouraged, and communicated, what are the values of this business, or rather than even further than communicated and encouraged to actually just display and live it.
You mentioned two important things there. I think that values remain static, whereas mission and vision can change over time. It's very unlikely that your values are going to change.
Correct.
So I think if I could give any small business owner a piece of advice, it would be focus on those earlier rather than later, those values. I must say that when we decided to start in it as a business, it was one of the game changers, to be honest, because it made those hiring and firing decisions a lot easier. It made disciplining a whole lot easier. We hire for values, not necessarily for skill. Skill can be taught, values can't.
Correct.
And again, your mission and your vision can change over time. So rather spend the time up front on those values, and you can have a first draft, you can have a second draft, but yeah, it's quite important to make sure you get those right. So yeah, piece of advice would be to spend the time on those, the time that they deserve.
But as well as a business leader, when you start your business, when you grow your business, I think the business values will be a reflection of yourself. It will be who are you, what do you represent, what do you want to bring to the economic community of your of the world, of your town, of your street, and that will very much be become part of the business.
What do you think has been the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome in your mental health?
Having kids.
Yeah, nobody tells you about them.
No, I think having kids, having children is a big step in every person's life, and I had the luxury of planning it, of taking my time around it. Some people might say too long. I only had children when I was 40, but that still, gave me a great, shock into my mental well-being and my mental attitude, because all of a sudden, something is not just about you anymore. And you really, really start to think about how your actions can impact those around you, those that do not have the power to fend for themselves. And as that changed my attitude quite significantly, and towards my home life, my family life, with regards to this little small creature that invaded my household, it actually becomes a part of you, and I think you take that out into the world as well, and it was a bit of a dilemma where I think about things quite a bit, and you realize that, Robin, you are really starting to care a little bit more than you used to, or possibly a lot more, and it was something to deal with, and I can't necessarily say it was a bad change, but it was an uncomfortable change.
So leading on from that question, what is your favorite self-care practice?
It might not be the healthiest of physical self-care, but I think we recently changed a little bit of our outdoor setup at home, where we changed from a formal outdoor dining room table to a outdoor couch with a little bit of a coffee table, where, at the end of the day, when you want to go and exhale, you go sit out there and you pour yourself a glass of wine, and my wife and I would sit down and just reflect on the day. And I think that's something that I physically had to invest in to get that presence of the furniture that encouraged that activity, to say, okay, this is going to be our unwinding space, where we can look over the lawn, look over the pool, and say, life is okay. We had a hard day. Let's reflect on what we did well, what we didn't do as well as we could, and how are we going to tackle it tomorrow?
Yeah, I agree. You need a spot that is just quiet, that the layout of the room is conducive to that. Because
Yeah,
sometimes, I mean, it can be as small as, like you say, a piece of furniture or a pillow or a table, or it can literally change the entire, I want to say, vibe of the room.
correct.
And that's what you're looking for. Is you're looking for something that just
Exactly.
allows you
That
to do
that that
that.
exhaling spot.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so what do you think is your top strategy for success?
I think the most important thing is to believe in yourself. Don't undervalue yourself. I think in the, I don't know if it's a normal entrepreneurial thing, but or just a South African thing, but where people quite often undervalue themselves. Highly skilled people undervalue themselves. Uh, don't be afraid to take chances. Try things, because if you try new things, a very quick analogy to do is to say, what's the worst thing that can happen if this doesn't work?
Mm,
And quite often the worst thing that can happen is not that bad.
yeah.
So just go and try things out there, and make sure that that in your strategy you put in some time to live as well.
Yep. Yeah, I think that is all great advice. I think, it comes down to knowing yourself.
Everybody has a balance. Everybody has a balance between what they can do, what they can't do, uh, what they're comfortable with, what they're uncomfortable with, and just pushing a little bit into that zone of discomfort. Might show you a wealth of new abilities that you didn't know of. But really, find your happy spot, and that balance between how hard you like to push, and at what time you say, okay, now I've had enough,
Yeah.
and respect that,
Mm.
because so many people, I think, currently, are just to put it very bluntly, working themselves to death,
Yeah.
and that is not going to add the value to themselves, to their lives, to the companies that they work for.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Burnout is a real thing. And I think it is something that COVID has taught a lot of us, is that, there weren't those strict working hours like there were previously, and, maybe there weren't those interruptions. So maybe we just pushed a little bit too hard.
Correct. And
So
but life still went on. Life still got on, and the
exactly.
business still got on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think know yourself, and the rest will follow from there.
Correct.
We're going to finish off now. Where can people go to learn more about you?
my personal website is rbbuzzcon.com, and the company which I have the association with Carlisle Tax and Financial Services, is ctfsa.co.za.
Thank you so much. Robin, thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with us today. Your advice and your insights have been super helpful and super practical. So thank you. We appreciate your time.
It was an absolute pleasure.
And with that, we conclude another insightful episode. Many thanks to my guest Robin Botha for sharing his insights and stirring narratives that will undoubtedly influence our future actions. His insights have been a real source of motivation. You can find the Lead with Impact podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you enjoy the show, please leave us a review. It helps us reach more listeners like you. Also, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the great content and advice we have coming up. Thank you for tuning into the Lead with Impact podcast. Join us each week to hear inspiring stories from entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders who are making an impact in the business world. From valuable tips to actionable insights, our guests have the experience and knowledge to help you take your business up a level. We'll discuss everything from marketing strategies to financial management and more so that you can stay ahead of the game and lead confidently. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, Lead with Impact.